Hello there. Welcome to another episode of the Red Delta Project podcast, your resource for helping you break free of the stressful, dogmatic diet and exercise rat race while helping you get in the best shape of your life on your own terms. Matt Schifferly here, founder of the Red Delta Project, author of the book Fitness Independence, as well as a new book, Smart Bodyweight Training. Today we're taking an honest look at the idea of, does stress cause you to get fatter, to gain body fat, and at the same time often linked to loss of muscle and strength, but primarily looking at body fat. There's a lot of ideas out there saying like, oh, you get stressed out and you're going to put a lot of abdominal fat on. Cortisol is usually a word that gets thrown around as a hormone that causes you to store fat, goes up with stress levels. Is there a lot of validity to this, or is it something that you don't need to worry about? Well, yes and no. Stress is one of those things that's like a lot of things. In the book Strong Medicine, they talk about stress as both the cause and solution to a lot of issues that we have that affect our health and society. Stress is like a medicine. If it's in the wrong dose, then yeah, it can be harmful. But in the right dose, it can actually prevent a lot of the things happening here. And that's the same thing with stress in general, and the cortisol as well. The cortisol, like a lot of hormones in the fitness literature, tends to become a little bit too simplified. You hear a lot of things about hormones like insulin, testosterone, epinephrine, cortisol. It's like, well, this is what the hormone does, so therefore things that cause the hormone to be produced are bad or good or whatever, but there's always a lot of influences behind what produces a hormone, what effect it has on the body. It's not as simple as X causes hormone Y, and therefore that's where you get this result. It's not usually quite that simple. In many ways, cortisol is extremely important for your good health. So what are we talking about with stress here? Well, I think the best way to look at stress is the analogy they use in the book Strong Medicine, where they talk about stress being like you have a stress cup or a stress bucket. And when you have stress in your life from any source, for any reason, mental stress, emotional stress, physical stress, it fills up this stress cup. And as long as your stress cup is at a manageable level and not overflowing, it can be very good for you even. It can even produce and stimulate positive changes. But when it gets overflowing, that's when we get into problems. So right off the bat, we got to recognize that something that can be stressful can be both good or bad, depending on how much it influences your total amount of stress in your life. Because just because you work out for more than 45 minutes, that doesn't automatically mean that it's not going to be productive. I've heard these rules and ideas out there all the time. Like, don't you dare ever work out for more than 45 minutes. Oh, cortisol levels shoot up after this amount of time. But there are a lot of influences to this, like the workout intensity, the weather, the exercises you're doing, your ability to handle the cortisol, your training history. There's a ton of things. So anything that's first out there, a rule saying like, don't get stressed out doing X, Y, and Z, there's more to the story than just that. So go ahead and go for that 3-hour hike. Go ahead and do a 1.5 hour long class, spin class, if you like. It doesn't automatically mean that you're going to release cortisol and gain weight and all these other things. But where the idea of stress can be detrimental and potentially fattening goes is the effect that it has on your body, your hormonal systems, and more importantly, your energy level. I've mentioned this many times, and it's worth repeating here, that your energy level is by far the most important influence in your quality of life and your health and well-being. The reason is because when your energy level is higher, everything you want to make happen is a heck of a lot easier. A good workout, building muscle, losing weight, eating healthy, having a good mental capacity, good decisions on the job. When your energy level is up, everything improves. When your energy level is low and going down, everything can go into a tailspin and get decreased. Now, don't let that suggest like, oh, you've got to always be up and you've got to have like a case of Red Bulls and No-Dos on you at all times. Of course, your energy levels are going to ebb and flow and change throughout the day. That's normal and natural. But when we're talking about especially chronic stress, where we're just stressed out all the time, worrying about various things, then we have a risk of depressing our physical ability to function. And that's where a domino effect can take place that can make it harder to lose weight, easier to gain weight, harder to build muscle, easier to lose muscle. You get more catabolic, and it's basically a downward spiral. So it's your energy level that's really the most important factor that stress is a very big influence on. It slows your recovery. It has a tendency to decrease your metabolic rate, your rate of caloric expenditure. I could go on, but basically low energy, bad. High energy, very good. The other thing that high amounts of stress can hold you back from is just the mental focus of where you're going. Like when you get really stressed out and get pretty negative, everything seems to be going wrong. You could be in the most beautiful setting, the greatest day. You could have 100 things go your way, but one problem happens that whole day, and your mind gets fixated on that one thing, and it taints all of the potential of everything else. And your attention span is extremely important, as I've also mentioned in the past, because where your attention goes, your activities and results flow. And if you're fixated on one thing that's very stressful, very negative, it's hard to rein your attention back and get it into more of a positive, productive mode. So stress is okay. It's not always bad, and sometimes it can be very good. Like if you are finishing up a day of work, you're kind of stressed out. Some people can find that going to the gym and getting out some of that angst on the iron or doing a hard workout can feel energizing, can make them feel really good. But some people can feel like going to the gym just drives them further into the ground. And that's one of the things to be aware of with the influences to your stress level and your stress cup. What things help you recover? What things are not very helpful? And overall, it's a good practice to try and minimize stress from just external sources. Things like stressing over traffic, stressing over worry, stressing over things on the job. One of the key lessons, I'm reading this book right now that was released, this researcher, I'm blanking on the name, I apologize, but basically what he did was he spent 5 years interviewing people who were senior citizens, 75, 80, even people in their over 100 years old, and saying, what advice would you give people like younger generations? And one of the biggest ones was stop worrying. Like, don't worry so much about finances. Don't worry so much about whether or not you're going to get the promotion. And they're like, we all worried like crazy. And of course, they had reason to worry. They went through the Depression. They went through World War II and all these very serious things. They're like, if I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't have worried half as much about anything. So worry can be a very big problem, but of course you should be concerned over things that are happening as well. The biggest lesson is that stress isn't going to help you when it's not necessary. There's productive stress in your life, there's unproductive stress, and a vast majority of it probably isn't very productive, like worrying about rush hour traffic, being stressed about rush hour traffic, being stressed about things you listen to in the news, being stressed about what gossip is going around in the office. None of this stuff is going to help you. It's not going to really have any bearing, good or bad, on your life, but if it causes a lot of emotional stress, then no, it's only going to potentially hold you back. So what can we do to potentially decrease the unproductive stress in your life and increase the productive stress, so that way you're using the most beneficial application of whatever is causing you stress in your life? Well, here's a few suggestions for you. Number one is plan to have some sort of de-stressing activity every single day. And this is extremely important because, especially in the working world, we have a tendency to think, I can relax on the weekend, or I can chillax on my vacation. When stress is building up and coming at us every single day, so if it's coming in every day, we need to handle it and blow off steam every single day. And you don't need to do anything as crazy as like take a vacation or anything. I've gotten in the habit of just getting outside for like a quick walk, around 16th Street here in downtown Denver during the day. And if I have a little bit of a break, it's like, just get out, get away from the phone, away from the computer, away from work, to remind yourself that there is a world outside of work, away from the computer and away from the things that are causing you stress. But it's more important to plan these things, because like a workout, if you don't plan it and say, this is when I'm going to do it, then leaving it up to chance means that chances are it's not going to happen on its own. So plan some sort of de-stressing activity on a daily basis. Even if it takes just a few minutes, it's going to go a long way at helping you reduce stress, making you more productive. Number 2 is train to stimulate. What I mean by that is there's a lot of messages out there within our fitness culture that say that training is effective because it's stressful. Your body encounters a stressor, and that sets off a cascade of effects that cause you to then rebound from the stress, build muscle, lose weight, all these great things. And not to say that stress isn't an important part of an exercise, certainly is, but training and working out with the intent to primarily stress yourself out probably isn't the best strategy most of the time. Sometimes it's fun. Like sometimes you'd be like, okay, I'm going to just see how quickly I can run a mile, and I'm just going to throttle my body as hard as I can. And it's very cathartic and it feels really good. In the book Strong Medicine, they recommend doing that a couple of times a week, just because it's a really good way to blow off steam. But we don't want to make that the point of all of our workouts. Instead, a good workout of various types should train to stimulate the body, stimulate the mind, give you something to think about, releasing some energy. And this doesn't always have to be intense. It doesn't have to be the hardest thing in the world. Think of like a lot of yoga classes. Think of some light strength training workouts, just something to get the energy flowing, something that helps you feel loose and active, something like Mike Fitch's Animal Flow. Go check it out, Global Bodyweight Training. It's very fluid, very rhythmic. Elements program from Gold Medal Bodies is another example. Especially as I get older, I see there's so much value in moving the body, using the body, exploring how the body works and moves, rather than just trying to drive ourselves to the ground. Because if your cup is already full from work and life and family, driving yourself further into the ground with hard workouts isn't going to help you. It's just going to compound the problem even more. A good rule of thumb I like to always leave off on is you should end your workouts feeling better than when you started them. I'm talking more energy, feeling like you blew off some steam, afterwards being like, oh, I needed that. That was great. Rather than, oh, thank God I got through that and got it over with. Great. On to the next thing I've got to take care of. You want to train to stimulate, not annihilate all the time. Number 3 is eat to satisfy. It's crazy how so many of our approaches to quote-unquote eating right these days are so stress-inducing. But as I talk about in my books, that the whole point of a healthy diet is to reduce stress, mental, physical, and emotional stress. A diet that causes hunger, causes cravings, causes guilt and anxiety, in my mind, that's not a healthy diet. That's a diet gone wrong. Eating to satisfy is essentially eating for the sole purpose of decreasing stress. And I know some people will say like, well, so if I'm craving junk food, then I just eat junk food like crazy? And I would say, well, not like crazy, but yeah, if you're craving chocolate chip cookies, then have a chocolate chip cookie. But the catch with a diet is that there's stress if you don't eat enough, but there's also stress from eating too much. And that's why the 4 appetites of healthy eating that I cover in book 1, Fitness Independence, are all about checks and balances. Because you get stressed if you don't do enough, but you also get stressed if you go overboard. So that way it kind of keeps you in that nice middle ground that everybody's middle ground is a little bit different. But if you can eat to satisfy rather than induce some sort of stress, then your diet's going to be a hell of a lot more healthy, and it's going to reduce a lot of stress that can be potentially influenced by the diet that you have. Again, a good diet should decrease the stress on your mind, body, hell, even your soul. rather than increase it. And no, because you're getting stressed, that does not mean that you're staying on the straight and narrow. It means something is a bit off. And then the fourth thing is recreate by being social outdoors and to kind of escape the humdrum of everyday life. And I say that because a lot of our, quote, stress relieving activities these days seem to be a little bit more on the screen side of things. We take refuge in our smartphones and social media or YouTube. We take refuge in a TV screen or the bottle of beer at the end of the day. When these things, they just kind of numb us. They don't really de-stress us very much. Instead, they just kind of take the stress that we have in our cup and just makes us numb to that stress without actually dealing with it. So instead, I recommend on a daily basis, if possible, recreate by either A, getting outdoors, getting out and being active, lightly active. You can just have a nice light walk after dinner. That goes a long way. Be social. Talk with your friends. Talk with your clergy if you're part of a religious organization. Just communicating. Because even though we have a lot of screen communication where we're texting and stuff, see someone face to face, have some tea, have a good conversation without your cell phone going off. Turn it off, in fact. You want to have a recreation so that you can take a lot of the stressors that are in your life and say, okay, guys, time out. I'll deal with you guys later, not right now. And having just that can go a long way at reducing the amount of stress load on you. Because especially these days with technology and the news and our ability to work 24/7, it's like we never get a break. We can't escape and have refuge away from the things that cause stress. So you couple that with the fact that we've got stressful inducing workouts. We're eating in ways that are trying to be stressful. We're not as social and face-to-face. We're not getting a break from our work. We're not getting a break from the news and all the negativity around. It's no wonder we're getting stressed out. Energy level goes down, appetite goes up. We don't want to be active. And it's just this downward spiral of cascading negativity. So having the reverse happen, where you planning to de-stress on a daily basis, train to stimulate, eat to satisfy, and recreate by being face-to-face social, outdoors, and getting away from the sources of stress, will only help you in your quest to lose weight, build muscle, be healthier, have a more robust immune system, think up how to solve problems at work. I mean, I just go on and on and on about how it can be only a benefit to your life. So hopefully I gave you some things to think about. Let me know if you have any questions. reddeltaproject@gmail.com. Do check out my books, Fitness, Independence, and Smart Bodyweight Training on Amazon. Paperback and Kindle versions are available. I'll talk to you guys next week. Till then, be fit, live free.